back.
Welcome back
to your Triathlon podcast.
Welcome aboard. Today is February the 4th. It's a Thursday. The year's 2021. Welcome aboard. This is Crushing Iron Podcast, and we are episode 449.
And we're living in a simulation.
We are living in a simulation. All right, let's be honest. We're recording this on Tuesday, which is actually the 2nd. Ahead of times will be right now. If you're listening to this on Thursday, we're at Run Camp. We're having a good time, which I know. Great weather, great people, awesome run trails out in the middle. It's a 5-star retreat. Listen, I will give some props to them. We have been also probably like their most frequent customer, especially this year. Because they've probably been hurting, but we have gone. It's our 6th time, I think, to head out there. It's a 5-star retreat. It's down in Nutley, Tennessee. It's a really just kind of a diamond in the rough kind of place. You drive out there and you're thinking, where is Coach taking me? It's kind of like one of those deliverance drives. And you come out and it really is. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of land. And we stay in a lodge. They have like 5 or 6 cabins and 30-plus miles of run trails with hills, gravel, all kinds of stuff. So in lake, but we all stay there. We park our cars on Wednesday. We don't get back in them until Sunday. We have an awesome time. So we'll be doing that. So we're recording this ahead of time. And it's your first time tuning in. We appreciate you joining us today. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe. And that's what we are. We are a triathlon-related podcast. We cover all things triathlon, and we cover a whole lot of life. We'll sometimes dive into some of the more specifics in your swim, bike, run training. We'll do race recaps, race previews. Occasionally, like 4 times ever, after like 450 podcasts, we'll have on a guest. I don't even know if we should even like mention that anymore. But for the most part, Mike and I, as both coaches, athletes, and best friends, just kind of kick back, relax, and have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through personally in training, what our athletes are going through. And sometimes, like today, we'll pop into our closed group, which is Crushing Iron Group on Facebook. You can search that, answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. And we will take the pulse of the community, or just frankly let them drive the train. And that's what we're doing today. I posted something very early this morning and got some feedback. And I came across it as I was kind of digging back through the archives. And I think this was like one of our very first 10 podcasts we ever did was Fraud or For Real.
Oh, it's that deep?
I think, yeah, I think it was at least first 10 or 15 we did. So I thought it'd be fun. I labeled it fact or fiction, but I think our previous one was a little bit better. And I will say, before we get cranking on this, it should really say fraud or for real, or it just depends, because a lot of the stuff is it just depends.
I know,
which is most of my answers. I know, when we get questions,
oh man, come on,
I know, just give me something black and white. I'm like, there's a lot of gray, and so I will say it depends. But I'm looking forward to doing this and this podcast. And again, we appreciate you tuning in and giving us your time for today, which is a sunshiny day here in Chattanooga on Tuesday. Thank God, because yesterday, no thank you.
It's still cold though, man. I gotta say, it's
brisk. But it's sunny and brisk. Yesterday was brutal and windy.
Yeah.
I'm getting soft.
But I'm still, I'm from Wisconsin, and I'm thinking to myself, in my head, I'm justifying. I'm like, well, this is a different kind of cold.
It's a southern cold.
It definitely is. If you're not used to it, it can really be bite. Because I could go up to Wisconsin right now and be mentally prepared for it and wear my stuff or whatever, and I'd walk out and be the same exact temperature. I'd be like, man, it's kind of nice out. It's warm. So it's a weird thing with the blood.
Well, I think what it is you're just not accustomed to it. Maybe
yes,
it's a more drastic thing.
I've been in Tennessee for almost 20 years, and my blood is definitely thinner, but
it's weaker.
It's very weak.
Yes, it was. Yesterday I was loading up the truck, and I was had some pants on, had a sweatshirt on. I was like, I need to double up. So I was loading up the truck bed with our C26 cornhole boards that Chet Dilladay so kindly gifted us. We're bringing those to camp, the Normatec chairs, the Normatec boots, and everything else that could fit in my truck bed. And I was like, I am absolutely freezing. So I came inside, I put on a extra large, one of our stock extra large hoodies. I doubled up on the sweatpants, and I was like, now I'm going to go back outside like a real old guy and just finish this thing up. I was going to say,
you look like a kid that was going to be eating malted milk balls or something.
But you know what? I got the job done. It kept warm, so we'll put those slightly worn sweatpants and sweatshirt on eBay for $3 a piece and make some extra revenue, because they're slightly used, and I wore them, so they're definitely not as good as they used to be.
Yeah. We'll bring them to camp and see if we can auction them off.
Yeah, we'll do something like that. We'll auction them off. I'm sure we'll get $2, $2.50. I'll trade you 3 Triscuits and a jelly bean.
Oh, I got a phone call coming in from My car warranty.
Like, you get more calls for your. How old is your car?
It's like, I mean, it's beyond warranty. I don't even know why they're trying, but it's old. But I get a call every other day from those guys.
They're not warranty people. They're probably, it's like the Russians probably.
Your warranty opportunity is about to expire. And I'm like, dude.
It expired like 14 years ago.
Yeah, let it go.
Yeah, let it go. We're not going to let go of today's. I cruised through these. There's some pretty good ones. I think we've going back like it's been 4 years, but these are some good ones. These are some questions that I get frequently just from our athletes or on Zoom calls, and I think there's some pretty good ones. And again, like we say, fraud or for real or fact or fiction, but a lot of these are it depends. But we'll just give you our honest, my personal experience as an athlete and then as a coach. But what do you see? What?
Nah, you're kind of
softening up
a little bit. I mean, if you go back to that original,
oh, just wait till I get to
chance.
Nike.
Forget it. Don't even think about it.
Well,
now it's
well,
it depends.
I've gotten older, man. I'm a little kinder. I mean, just wait till
that's my point.
Wait till I get to the Nike question about the Vaporflies because Nike's on my list.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've been on my list for a while. I mean, fuck a year.
I want to hear why. Can we hear why?
We'll get to. I just don't like them as a. Anyway, we'll start with the first one. Jerry Clay will be seen at camp, and if she's listening to this on Thursday, hello from across the room. She asked, "Fact or fiction? You can draft while running?"
Absolutely.
Which is it's actually an excellent question, and you 100% can draft while running. Obviously, like as with all things drafting, it's going to be the benefit is going to be how many. If you watch. And I would encourage everybody to do this, honestly, because I think you learn a lot about the sport and transitions and tactics, because you don't really see that because how Ironman coverage is, and even like the event they did at Challenge Daytona. There's only so much you can highlight, but if you watch like any ITU or WTS sprint or Olympic distance, you can learn so much about just tactics and watching the sport and how these athletes at the highest level compete, and you will see them. No one chooses to run side by side, unless they're trying to play mental games, right? They're trying to, like, if you go back like at the Olympics, which is what's in Brazil or something, like maybe 5 years ago, I guess now, when Nicole Spierig and Gwen Jorgensen, like she was just kind of running next to her a little bit to be like, yeah, just I'm hanging with you. I think sometimes they gauge, but for the most part, you will kind of peel back in and run right behind somebody. You see people get aggravated. So yes, you can 100% draft while running, especially, I think as someone commented below, like, yeah, especially if you're going into a headwind, like it's the same thing with cycling. It's going to be a more pronounced gain or feel effort wise when you're kind of filing it behind somebody. You and I know this from our days, riding and even running at the lab, that there is 100% a benefit in drafting. Like anytime you can have someone take the effort in front of you to block the wind, you can do it. Same thing goes swimming. You can draft in swimming as well. You can draft in all three sports.
Yeah. The running one, I think, is a little underrated, maybe. Even.
It is definitely underrated.
Because I remember doing that once in a 10K with one of my old coworkers, and he never even knew I was there for like 5.5 miles. And I just let him pace me and kind of hung right in his pocket, and because he was the guy I was trying to beat. He didn't even know I was there, and then I just kind of ran up alongside him. I said, "Let's go, buddy."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "You take it."
You did. Oh, jeez. Then you dropped him like a bad habit.
Oh, I just torched him.
That's always a good thing. I did that,
and I felt a little guilty about it, to be honest.
Why?
I don't know.
It's gamesmanship. It's part of it.
It is, and it was his fault. He didn't know I was there, but I was literally he didn't even look.
It's part of the game.
It's on him, man.
Draft, take it in. And I mean, just do what you got to do. But yeah, it's a 100% fact. You can definitely draft while
that's an interesting question, though, right? Like, do you give? Like, I gave him the opportunity. I kind of like hung out to the side. I'm like, "You ready? Let's do it."
So you kind of gave him. You kind of like poked him, like, "Hey, you ready? I've been here this whole time."
Yeah, instead of just blowing by him and like catching him off guard, which is what normally people would probably do in a race. I wonder how often that type of things happens. That sort of sportsman-like.
I like that kind of gamesmanship. It's part of it.
Hey, you've been pulling me all day, and now I'm giving you the opportunity to come along.
Well, you see that a lot, like when you're watching Tour de France, like in the guys that go out at the very beginning of like a very flat race, one of the flatter stages, and you'll see like 4 or 5 guys go off the front to try and win the day, and you'll see somebody who's like pulling a lot, and you'll see like maybe a guy or two at the back, and they're like, come on, like why aren't you coming up here to like do the work? And a lot of times because the way the Tour de France is, like, because it's they're trying to look for their other people on their team that are behind them, they're like, I don't have to do anything. Like, because if depending on where, where you fall in like in the categories and on the overall standings, they're like, I don't have to do any work. Like, I know where I'm at, and they have somebody in their ear, the team car is like, don't go, just kind of hang back. You're like, you want to drop me, because or do it. And I think it's part of, I think it's aggravating for people to watch sometimes. You're like, why do you got to do your share? And yeah, if you're on a group ride, you do. But when it comes to like racing, like every man for himself, like get out and do your thing. And if you got to be smart. I think people always, if you've been watching Kona the last few years, it is and will always be about the run. But if you see this in some of the ITU distance races too, it's like, why don't you go up and pull? Why don't you pull? You got to do your work. And they're like, I know I can run. I know I can outrun all of you, so I'm just going to hang back, 10 meters or whatever. That's why you've seen such a push to make the draft zone 20 meters in cycling, even though there is even a benefit at 20 meters, because they want it to be more fair. They don't want the guys to because that was kind of the shots people taking, like Patrick Lang or whatever, because he was just kind of falling in behind his other teammates and whatever. And at Kona, he's like, I just come out and just outrun him. And he's like, hey, if you want to beat me, learn how to run faster than me. Just kind of that's how it is. It's part of the sport. Drafting is all over the place. Even if they have, even though it's non-drafting, drafting it's there. Like it's there in age group races. It's everywhere. So yeah, draft on the run, but also just run your own race. That's like something that people I think get way too caught up in, is like just saving energy versus like, doing your own race and maybe passing people and doing your own thing. So don't get caught up in like energy savings, go more about, be always more focused on going as fast as you can and being as fast as you can on race day.
Before we move on, can I ask a quick question about Kona?
Yeah.
Since there was no races last year, is it back in October?
Yeah.
Okay, and then how are they going to fill it?
Well, I think you're basically just getting it rolled over from this last year. The pros will do their same thing. I'm sure they're going to have like a different qualification process. But age groupers who want to do it last year will do it this coming year.
Okay, so it's on 2019 races.
Yeah, and some early season 2020 races that happen. I think
and possibly early this year.
Yeah,
like Texas or something. Yep. Or whatever help. Okay.
Texas, Tulsa, I think is also up there. So they're gonna try and squeeze in as much as they can, obviously because they want to fill up the race, but they want to make money. And I think Kona entry is like $900, something like that. So they definitely want to make some cash because they missed out on it this last year. Aaron Christensen, this is an excellent question. Is there such a thing as carb loading? Yes, I do it every time I have pizza. Yes, there's 100% a quote-unquote carb loading is a thing. However, I think this is one of those depends in terms of fraud or for real. I think most athletes awfully time their quote-unquote carb loading. Most people do it the night before, which is not what you should do. You should be doing it 2 nights before. We always kind of do a standard 2 nights before. Like if we have like team races, we'll go out and we'll do our carb load 2 nights before. Because if you're going to quote unquote carb load and you want it to actually digest it and be able to utilize it on race day and not be still digesting it on the swim or the bike from the night before. Like if you think about it, like you eat it like 5 or 6, you wake up the next day, like it's just 12 hours. Like it's not that much time has gone by and you probably even slept that much. 2 nights before, have your biggest meal. Then the next morning, like race day, the day before race day, Saturday morning, have a big breakfast. And after that, start tapering it off. Start tapering off the food. And have a fairly light meal the night before.
Hit early?
Yeah, hit it early and then just kind of have a light meal. Just let everything kind of digest and kind of get through your system. And then, but yeah, carb loading is a thing. Now, I will say that it's also about like the distance of like the race. Like, do you need to carb load the night before an Olympic or 2 nights before? No, eat regularly. It's like you're going out for some people, like that's shorter than a workout, that you'll do. Like as long as you're eating appropriately and taking in fluids that you normally would, and not, just kind of being busy with work and not taking in enough stuff, like you don't need to carb load for a sprint. Like the amount of time, like that's just not, and it's like the carb loading for a sprint or even really an Olympic is kind of like taking a goo the last mile of your run. It ain't going to do anything. Like by the time it actually gets through it's all placebo. It's all placebo effect at that point. Like the last mile or whatever. It's like people have a banana and they're like, oh, my cramps gone. Like,
Save me.
Save me. I grabbed a banana, and within like 30 seconds, my cramping was gone. Do you really think it works like that? Do you think a banana digests and gets into your bloodstream that quickly and causes your muscles to stop seizing up? No, that doesn't work that way. So carb loading before a sprint and Olympic is kind of like taking a goo with like a half mile left or a mile left. It ain't going to do anything, right? So, but yes, if you're going to carb load between the
may help you walk back to the hotel.
That's true. You may have a little more pep in your step as you unrack and take your bike back and get back to the hotel or whatever. But at that point, you should already had your post race food. So yes, carb loading is a thing. It's just all about the timing of it in terms of getting to your muscles in your body how it needs to go, and not doing it the night before. Do it 2 nights before. And then breakfast the day before, and then after that, just kind of taper it off. So yes, it is a fact, but it can be a feel fiction or fraud if you do it, or if you do it and the timing is bad.
Yeah, I heard something. I think it was related to this on a podcast the other night I was listening to. This doctor was saying something about the brain burns most of our glucose. Have you heard anything like this before?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Yeah. Well, it was something along the lines of that the brain actually kind of breaks that stuff down, which makes a little sense when you think about, like, if you eat a lot of carbs, and they talk about brain fog and that kind of thing, and that makes sense in that regard. So I just find it interesting to think about carb loading. I really don't know what the hell it is. I just eat a lot of carbs sometimes, and it seems to give me energy. It's sort of like that. It does. If you go out for like an early pizza and the next morning you have a big ride, it seems to help. But again, I don't know. It could be from 2 or 3 days ago.
Some people like way overdo it with like 2 things of pasta and all kinds of stuff like the night before, and like if you do that in real life, like not in recent training, if you eat crappy, like really really crappy, like the night before, usually takes you like 2 days to feel like. Do you want that feeling for race day? No, you don't. Like, you want to actually eat it when you're supposed to eat it and time it, and so you're not feeling like bogged down with a full belly and feeling just like like you said, kind of have that kind of fog. Because I read this all the time with athletes. Like, you would think, oh, it's carb loading, it's gonna help me, but they'll go out and have a lot of like Mexican or too much pizza or too much junk food, and they'll wake up the next morning and they'll be like, I had a totally bad workout, but that's what I get for eating like crap the day before. So it's also about what you eat and how much you eat of it, not just shoving you're shoving 6 loaves of bread down your throat with 2 bowls of pasta and expecting things to go very well the next day. Like, that's not how you prep and prime your body for race day.
Yeah. And in some ways it's almost like a bit of a faux energy or short-term energy too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're looking at like trying to carb load for a whole Ironman or whatever, it's like, you have to dig deeper, and it has to be something else.
Yeah. Next question from Fawn. This is a good one.
He likes this.
You can out-train a bad diet.
I think for a while.
Elaborate.
I think that
and define out-train, right? Like in terms of like body composition. Are we talking like in fitness, improving your fitness?
I do think it's like one of the things I remember hearing is that, like, and this has nothing to do with vegan or anything, like as far as like judging it or whatever, but like I've heard that a lot of times vegan bodybuilders will go vegan and then they'll stay huge and they'll be ripped for like a year. It's almost like the body has DNA and the ability to adjust and fight through certain things, and let's just say it's a terrible diet on the side. So I think that sometimes that you can, if your mind is straight, and we were just talking about how overloading carbs can affect the mind. I think if you're in a good place and things are, like maybe you have everything else sort of in check, you're sleeping good and you're not doing anything else crazy and you're just eating poorly, I think you can get by for a while. I think I've done that with races. I mean, I've never been a stellar type of diet guy, but I think it always kind of bites you, towards the end, and I think you can fight through it, but eventually it's just like, wow, it's kind of that grinder. It catches up with you.
So I agree with you to an extent. I think a lot of this is so relative to what you consider a bad diet, right? Or what you consider bad in general, because it could be in terms of like, because listen, like you could eat really healthy foods and just eat way too much of it, right? Like, you know, it's all about how much too. Like, or you could be, I mean, there's like stories like, excuse me, all the time of like professional athletes that eat just like crap 24/7. Yet they go out and play basketball, or like Lamar Odom. He was like, basically he like lived off candy. And so, yeah, so I think it's like, it's how much and when, but also like define bad diet, right? Like, I mean, we were just discussing, I signed up for Swim the Suck this next year, and I was kind of going back to like, 8 years ago when I did it last, and how hungover I was like that, and how much I was drinking. Then like, that's a bad diet. Right. And excuse me, but you know, it's like, so that was terrible. I was drinking every single day, yet I was still performing fairly well, you know, when I race. So like, so it's all relative, you know, in terms of like, what are you trying to improve? How well are you doing? You know, are you eating too much, or are you talking about like, when you say, can you out train a bad diet? Is it, I'm training really real well and I'm eating too much food and I'm gaining weight? You know, I think that's sometimes people ask that questions like, how, you know, how much weight can I gain and still be able to be fit? I think it's, again, like it's a very broad question that I think is difficult to answer, because you have to define bad diet. Is it about changing the body composition? Or a lot of times the other part is like one thing is connected to another. If you're having like a really bad diet, you're probably not sleeping very well, right? Yeah. And that's going to affect your recovery. That's going to affect your ability to perform. You know, are you going out and working out great, and you're having this really incredible run, and then you wake up, you know, the next day and you're like, I didn't eat at all afterwards, right? That's also considered a bad diet, right? It's like not eating enough is considered a bad diet, not eating the right food. So yes, I think you can get by. Like you said, you can kind of tread water, if you will, and probably still see some increments, but you know, you just have the spectrum is so broad. It can be an athlete who's eating 7,000 calories a day and only and barely training at all. No, you can't probably outwork that. But you also have athletes who are probably, you know, training 15, 16, 17 hours a week and aren't eating enough, you know, and that's also a bad diet. Like, there's so many athletes out there that train so much. And I think this is a topic that's it's just like not talked about near enough, is how little some people eat when they should be eating more. Like, I think we always like to kind of throw the darts at like the athletes who eat too much, who have like a heavier body composition, or you think they're too big. But there's a whole different spectrum of athletes who woefully underperform and will never reach their full potential because they're more concerned with body image than body fueling. And that's a very real conversation. So like when you talk about bad diet, it's a full range from undereating and underfueling and basically starving yourself to your body just eats itself away and no, you'll never be able to perform, to, I mean, honestly, that's the majority of the comments that I make in Training Peaks that's surrounded by fuel. It's never, you should probably cut back. You should probably, it's always, dude, eat something, like fuel your body. Don't go on a tour ride and not take anything. Or, you know, you wake up the next day and you're like, yeah, I just didn't feel it, but it's probably because I didn't have dinner last night. Yeah, that's probably a problem. You know, like, so yes, can you tread water to an extent? Sure. But at the same time, like if you're working out and you're training and you're putting your body through the ringer, you have to treat your body well, or it's at some point, right? At some point, it's going to rear its ugly head back at you and think, okay, you're not taking care of yourself. I'm going to do something, or something's going to happen to me, or I'm going to have an injury or a stomach issue or whatever it is. And I'm basically going to force you to look at this because you're obviously not doing it yourself.
Yeah. It's very complicated, man. I think it kind of depends on what your baseline is. We were talking about that the other day with as far as training, but like your diet baseline, if you're maybe changing, you know, if you're a real clean eater, and you're very efficient with your absorption of nutrients and things like that, I think that makes a big difference. Like a lot of times I think I personally get into these weird dietary streaks where my like digestive process maybe isn't as efficient as it should be maybe. And a lot of times that I think that you tend to overeat in that case because you feel like you need more and because it's not, you know, like it's like you need to eat twice as much pizza because, you know, one slice isn't quite, you know, getting it done because you're not absorbing it or stuff like that. So, but I also think exercise, and I think the mind can, you know, if you're cranking and you're working hard, you know, like during, I mean, well, like Michael Phelps is a good example. Like he talked about the 10,000 calories or whatever. He would just go to Taco Bell or whatever and just like eat. I mean, that guy was ripped, and he was obviously world-class athlete, right? But again, it sort of maybe catches up with you, because I think eventually your brain can't handle it. It's like, man, he could suck it up day after day, but he was miserable, and he, openly talks about being depressed and
alcoholic.
Yeah. So like, it's like you're just pouring in cheap calories, and it can carry you for a while. I mean, sometimes for a long time. I mean, look at him. And I kind of feel like that, back in the day, we used to go through that. We were just like, we need more energy. So where are we going to get it? We'll start drinking. We'll start eating pizza. We'll start doing whatever it takes to find more not fake or just like quick burning calories and get through it. But I think eventually you collapse in your own thought process. And it's like, man, I just can't find that Goggins kick ass anymore energy.
Well, I mean, extremes are what sell, right? It's like everyone always latches on to an extreme, or the athlete that runs 100 miles on, 2 raisins and an almond, or the age grouper that does awesome at Kona because he does, a low fat, a high fat, low carb, and then you look at, the last 10 years. And all age groupers who have competed at like the top 20, and you pick out how many have done those. You're like, okay, well, probably only like 1 or 2, but like extremes sell, right? That's what sells is extreme things that one person does one time. And the fact of the matter is, like, going back to like Michael Phelps, he's the greatest swimmer ever on the planet in the history, raging alcoholic, depressed, drug use, pounded McDonald's. It will tell you he didn't have the best diet. Is that what we're supposed to do? Right? But it's like, so I think we love to, again, like going back to the podcast we had on like Monday, it's like we love to attach ourselves to these extreme things and what we consider, like, I think identifiers. I can identify with that. I can claim this. And I just think that we just have to be very, very careful, especially when it comes to diet and like latching on to certain things and like what's going to go well for people, whether it's keto or fasting diet or, vegetarian, whatever it is. It's like, just be very careful with that. Right. I think in terms of, and I think, again, just going back to the phrase bad diet, it is like the broadest of all
because
terms.
You can have a diet that's, whose diet is a good diet? You know what I mean?
Dude,
like,
I used to go sit at the bar at Edley's after, like, when I was drinking, and I would go out, like, it's my version of like being on a good diet was I would go sit at the bar. I would order a grilled chicken salad, and then I would pound 3 double vodka soda waters, right? That's not a healthy diet, right? Like, was I making a good food choice? Sure. Was it complimenting or being complimented by my drink choice? Absolutely not. Was I trying to like mentally rationalize, but I'm having, Sonic, soda water, so I'm not having the extra calories of beer, so I'm taking care of myself. No, you're not. You're literally killing yourself from the inside. So it's like, it's a very, very, very broad, I think, very specific to the person, thing.
And plus, quickly, you were a lot younger then. You talk about Odom eating candy. These are professional athletes in their 20s, and all of a sudden we're like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't. I was looking up Courtney Dauwalter, that crazy ultra runner, awesome, and she was talking about she drinks beer and eats candy. That's kind of how she does it, and she crushes these ultra racers. But she's 35. That's 20 years my younger, and for me to think, I just think when we're younger, we're more able to get through that kind of thing too, So you can't really base your diet on a, some 25-year-old, like what they do. Right.
But at the same time, like, who even, like, what's not to say she's also only reaching 50% of her ability because of her choices. Right, like I think sometimes, like, we give so much credit to people who do these successful things, or the same could be said for the person who's like, I went out and did a 5K and I did it in 22 minutes on no training, and you're like, that's incredible, like, you're just such, and like, yeah, way to woefully underperform, right? Yeah. Because that's the truth of it. It's like, if you don't get props in for not doing your own due diligence. So yes, you can get away with it, and it's like, going back to, again, what we said on Monday, it's like, you look through, like, all right, I need to make some changes in my life. Let me find these 3 that I can kind of like, that I can get it, but they might not be the ones that are right for you. So, like, yeah, you can see the people who live off this or do this. You're like, you gravitate towards the one that you can identify because you want it, not because it might be the best for you. Same thing with like living on, like that's just not,
I
it's
agree
not
with you.
reality. It's not like I want to go do some of the suck, you know, so it's not like I'm going to go start pounding, you know, pink lemonade, Crystal Light and vodkas the night before like I did last time.
Yeah. But here's the big question, right? Like, do you think Michael Phelps woefully underperformed because he was, you know what I mean?
He'll tell you he did.
He did.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing, though. Like, it goes back to are you going to beat your time when you were drinking kind of thing? You
100%.
know, there's okay, I believe you will. I really do believe that. I just think that at certain points in our lives that
age definitely plays a part.
Yeah. But also that unbelievable, like he was just probably afraid and like just so like driven and to not fail, you know, like those elements in the brain are very fascinating too. It's sort of like you can, you know,
and
whatever.
hatred for yourself. Like,
right. Yeah.
That's what I used to have.
That's a competitive thing that just burns out eventually. But sometimes I wonder if it isn't, well, look at like a Tiger Woods type guy, you know, that edge and that ability to just, you know, win at all costs. But he was a complete mess during that streak. Now he's like
totally changed, you know.
Totally changed, and he's still doing okay, but he's definitely not dominant Tiger Woods anymore.
He's also older.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so
there you go. Fact, fiction, fraud, for real, depends, all of it for that one. The next one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Next one from Summer. The Nike ZoomX Vaporfly Next Percent will take minutes off my run if I wear them during Ironman Texas.
And I'll just kick back for a minute.
Like, first of all,
is it the Nike thing?
I just can't get by. I don't like the way they treat their athletes.
They're athletes or they're
well, both
employees.
They're just like I don't think they're just a shoddy company, and their shoes are so freaking. I just can't get behind it. They're on my list, and I've done a pretty awesome job of like erasing people off my list and like going back and starting from scratch, but they're on my list still. So I can't really say anything positive about them. However, the question is the question, and the answer is yes, unfortunately. However, it does come with a gigantic caveat. These shoes will only take minutes off your running time if you can still run.
I think that's the point, right?
So don't. The same question goes for like the question we're gonna have in a minute ago when it comes or down the thread when it comes to like, are disc wheels worth it? Yeah, if you're going fast enough. Like it's only you're not going to walk faster in the next percents. So if you want to purchase a shoe and you want to shave minutes off, because they are that fast. I mean, there's like tons of scientific studies, and there's a reason why when they try to break these marathon records and these like crazy things, that people wear them, or they wear the Hoka version or whoever. Like you can buy speed now with running shoes, but it's only going to buy you speed if you're running and not walking. So if you want to really benefit from these shoes, you have to. It's kind of like this: are snowshoes faster in snow? Yeah. But how are they on pavement? They suck. You're going to go slower. So if you want to buy shoes, buy them. But if you want to get the most use out of them, train so much that you can actually run in them the entire time. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, and
Which most people won't. They'll just buy the shoes.
Are they like?
They're like 300 bones. They are so expensive.
Oh, so what is the thing about them?
The way that they're shaped,
more responsive.
They're super responsive, and they just like make you. They make you go fast. They
like real light, small sole, like compared.
I don't even want to like.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because I wonder, like, because I've been running these Hokas now, and it's definitely helping me. But I
swear to God, if you come in here one day with these Nike Vaporflies on, do the podcast.
I'm not going to do the Nike. I was going to maybe go back to my Pearl Izumi or my Newtons or something like that. You know, like. Thinking about that in terms of racing, that would be silly just to train the whole time in Hoka and then race in one other shoe. That would be really risky for me.
But they're super efficient. Is what I mean. Really, like what they do is like you're faster because you're faster with less effort. Is how they're made. They're just a very, 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 very efficient shoe. I've had plenty of athletes racing them. And they will say like, is my PR really a PR because I wore these shoes?
Why are they? Oh man. Does it feel like they're
just that fast?
Are they? Is there motors in them or something? Like
I don't know. Well, with Nike, they probably are. Next question.
Next question.
Sherry Erickson. The best way to avoid goggle fogging is spit. Okay, that's false. That is a fraud. Do you see any other sport that requires goggles? Do you see people spitting in them? No. Yep, I'm going to go hit the slopes, Johnny. Let me hawk in my ski goggles and go out and hit the slopes.
Might work.
You don't see that. You see, like, you just don't see it, except for swimmers are like, I think I'm going to spit in these because I saw Johnny down in lane 3 spit in his. Just throw them in the water. Let them acclimate to the water temperature, or get some anti-fog. I'll tell you one thing. Anti-fog doesn't even work half the time anyway. I will say my new pair of goggles haven't fogged yet, but I don't spit in them. Yeah, don't spit in your goggles. Like, just don't spit in them. Like,
what if you don't have anything? Like, the last resort, I think it works. But here's my thing: is it's always been dish soap for me.
Dish soap or Johnson & Johnson, like the baby soap, is the best if you want to
rub it on.
Yep, if you want
wash
to
it off.
If you want to, Christ, if you want to prevent fogging up, the same thing goes for the visors with aero helmets. Some people have those that fog up like it's a really, really, really humid day. People wear these visors attached to the front of their aero helmets, and they will fog up like instantly because they're breathing into them. Best thing you can do the night before, take some like Johnson & Johnson, like the old school baby shampoo, and wash it. Because really, it's all the residue and the junk that's on there and just fogs up. So rinse it off. Either let it drip dry, just kind of wipe it like you would, taking care of your car, and then set it and forget it, and you'll be done. Just don't spit on it, okay? Just stop spitting. I don't understand like the thing with spitting. Frauding also gross.
And Rain-X is good if it's raining on those on those visor shields.
Yeah, that will work. I think
I've used it. It's pretty amazing.
Yep.
You got to do it the night before.
There you go, Jared Dobbs. Nice job, Jared. Use baby shampoo. It really works perfectly. Yes, it does. Nicely done. Dawn, it works as well. If it can work on ducks with oil, it can work on your goggles. Next question.
And baby shampoo doesn't hurt your eyes.
Rolling down. And this is an absolutely fantastic question. Kind of goes back up to the one we were talking about from Fawn. Ryan Seabass-Seabanek. The less I weigh, the faster I will be. This is also one of those depends questions. Because generally speaking,
in what race?
The lighter you are, yes, the faster you will be. Up to a point, right? This goes back to Fawn's question about can you out-train a bad diet? There are, and this is also why you see so many, especially runners, right, who have this mentality of it's the same for a lot of endurance athletes that have body image issues or have gone through weight loss or who unfortunately associate better performance with being skinny or being slight. Is you also see those athletes get injured more than you see anybody else get injured. The ones that don't take care of themselves. And this is the same for like long course racing. And I've said this in years past to you, I think in person or like via text. We've been watching Kona, and they'll do like these live shots. And what do I say? He looks too skinny. He looks too skinny. And you will see athletes. Cody Bills has done a really remarkable job of kind of documenting and blogging about his relationship with food and body image. And you see it especially with Kona because it is important, right, to. Especially for a race like Kona, where that's why you rarely will ever see a large person win Kona, because they just dissipate too much body heat. Like, it's just the bigger you are, the more heat you get in a place like Kona. You can't dissipate heat quick enough to keep yourself cool. So yes, weight matters, and then but also in the run you want to be more efficient because the less weight you're carrying around, the faster you're going to go, up to a point to where you feel weak. Right? You want to, in my opinion, for long course racing, and you'll see a lot of coaches say the same thing, is that you should feel strong before you feel light, right? You want to be durable. You want to have a strong frame. I would rather have an athlete say, Coach, I'm feeling really strong, instead of I'm feeling really skinny. Because, like, here's the thing. When you see somebody and you say, are you feeling okay? You look like you've been sick. It's because they look frail. They look skinnier. They look more, their face is drawn. And athletes can really, really struggle with this in terms of they just feel like I'm going to get slow or I'm not going to run fast if I don't take care. And it's not taking care of your body. If I don't maintain a certain weight on the scale. But I can tell you from personal experience, there have been times where, even this last year, where I would get, like, there were a few points where I started out last year weighing like 191. And I got down, I think the lightest I was like 168, which is pretty light. And that was too light for me. My runs that week, I felt, it's funny because you hop on the scale and you see a lower number and your first thought is, I'm going to be fast today because I'm light. And every single workout and run that I did when I was at 168 felt weak. And so I ended up changing my nutrition. I told Kylie, who was working with the Time Vaporfly Nutrition, I said, I need more. I need to actually, I think I want to gain weight. I want to put some weight back on. So we went up to like 4,000, 5,000 calories a day. I got back up to like 170, 172. And I felt fast and I felt strong. And I think that's the combination everyone needs to look for. So yes, is up to a point, is it? But because a lot of times, like, people, especially with like in summer training, I mean, you can walk out to the mailbox and drop 3 pounds, right? So it's more about, are you dehydrated or are you really losing weight? Like, and that's a question I would have to ask myself too. Like, okay, you went and ran yesterday, you biked, you worked out for 3.5, 4 hours, you ate early. Did you really lose weight, or are you just like 2 pounds light on water, right? So are you losing weight? Or are you just quote unquote lighter? And I think then you see the number on the scale and you think, oh, I've got to be faster today. But really your body's like, dude, I need water. Like, you need some fuel in me if you want me to perform the way I need to. So again, it's the same thing. It's a happy medium. But I would honestly generally say most athletes should worry much more about being strong and being durable than they should be about losing and cutting weight. Because again, it goes back to not taking care of yourself, not taking care of your body after you work out, because you're so afraid that you're going to add weight because you're taking in too many calories, or you're not taking in enough while you do work out. And then your workout isn't nearly as good, so you're not gaining fitness because you're so worried about cutting weight. Like, it's so much bad information out there about how to lose weight and why you should, or even if you should, and then when you're cutting calories and how much like detriment it's actually doing in your performance.
I always think that's an interesting question with regards to triathletes versus, say, runners, because, I think that's where I see like a lot of, lifetime marathon runners, and that's all they do. They seem real frail. And like triathlon, because of, I think, swimming, you keep your upper body more in proportion, I guess, is a way to look at it. And I feel like that's a healthier place to be. And that's why I've always liked triathlon versus just running, as much as I love running. Because I think it's sort of that beat down, and you're going to have strong legs, but you're really not doing anything with the upper body to make you that strong, that overall strong, like you need to be in triathlon. Because swimming and, of course, cycling, you're leaning out, especially in aero, you've got to have a stronger upper body, and all those things sort of come together. That's why I think, it's weird. I don't ever focus on losing weight. It just sort of happens when I'm training, and that kind of goes back to that bad diet thing too. It's almost like if you're working out a lot and you're really feeling good and going through it, I think your body's a more efficient burning machine, and you can burn bad stuff off easier, versus like somebody that's not working out and eating the same exact diet. So sometimes I feel like I can eat anything and really be in a good place if I'm doing a lot of training and my body's ready for it, my muscles are ready for it. Just more efficient.
And as with not all things, but as with most things in life, if you're really doing it the right way, you're not really having to focus on it. Yeah. It just kind of happens, right? And that's kind of what I felt when I ended up dropping my weight. Like the first 5 or 6 weeks, I was like trying really hard, and it kind of felt like a lot of pressure to lose weight, because I was really frustrated and disappointed with how I looked and how much weight I'd put on. And so I was almost like hyper focused on it, to the point to where I was probably negating some positive effect. And then once I kind of got in a really good groove for Texas, it almost didn't matter. Well, not what I ate, but it was almost just kind of like, no matter what I did, it just kept falling off, because I was generally, I mean, you know me, like I still eat out like twice a week. Like I'll still go out and grab some wings or grab some ribs or whatever. Like I still do that. And then it just kind of fell off until I got to a point to where I thought, okay, now the point is for me to hold on to more weight and not lose it, because I've gotten to the point to where if I don't address how the amount of food that I'm eating, then I'm going to get to a point to where I'm not going to be able to use the fitness that I have because I'm going to be too weak to use it. Which is like, and that's like, I think some athletes are more concerned with body image than they are performance. And that goes with runners and triathletes. They would rather feel and look skinny than perform their best and really, really well.
Yeah, that goes with Instagram models too.
It does go with Instagram models. I mean, I wouldn't know I'm on Instagram, but you keep me apprised. Nicole Winger, if you don't complete a set of Tarzan drills, your coach will give you the same drills same drills twice in the same week later. You're damn straight he will. Dylan.
For real.
Dylan, the perfect taper doesn't exist. Fact or fiction? This is a great question. And I hate using the word perfect or guarantee or 100%, you know, because that's basically what every sponsored ad you see for whoever's trying to sell whatever usually uses. There's no such thing as a perfect taper. No, like there's no such thing because you can't really know, right? It's you have an idea and you see it happen on race day, but you can't ever really know. It's the same thing going back to like our Michael Phelps argument. But could he have gone faster? He says he thinks he could. We think he probably should have, but could he? You know, it's like you never really know. It's like even if you have like, and that's the thing, like athletes are so afraid to experiment sometimes too, but most athletes also experiment too much. You can have like a really great taper and then have a great race and you think, that was the best taper. I nailed it. I need that same one every time. That's actually not the case, right? It could be, you could have done pretty good. Or my thing with tapering is I have like 2 or 3 different like 2-week taper blocks that I have that I feel like work really, 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 really well. But what I have found the best over the last 15 years of coaching is you have an idea of that 2 to 3 week taper, what it should be, you know, for big races, you know, like their A race, half irons, half marathons, full marathons, Ironman distance racing, 15 miles, 100 miles, like for those, especially because they're so long and fatigue is so prominent in those races because they're so long or you have to go so fast, is you create your 2-week block and then you just annoy the hell out of the athlete. How are you feeling? What are you doing today? How's it going? How's it going? How's it going? How are you feeling? How are the legs? Feeling crisp? Because you basically have to just change things on a dime because no matter how good the taper you lay out is, if life is super stressful, then things need to change, right? Because and the other thing is like you want to stay really crisp when you taper. You still want to do intensity, right?
Right.
So I think
There's
it's about
the question.
It's about having a really, really good outline and a good idea, but then it's really honestly about just taking things day to day based on how you feel. And then also trusting it. Like there was an athlete that we work with, Sam, who did Daytona and ended up having like a really stellar day. And I think on Monday or Tuesday, like the week before the race, his comment in Training Peaks was something like, my legs still feel terrible, right? Like 5 days, you know, you've been training like all year long and you're like, my legs feel like really, really, really bad. I don't like worry, you know, because a lot of athletes can like, when you think of tapering, most athletes think of rest and I should feel, you know, really ready to go on race. Or I should feel really, really ready, like really for, and while I think that's true, especially like for like Ironman racing, like for Ironman racing, in my opinion, you should feel fresh, like probably the Sunday or Monday before, because it's such a long event. You want to be kind of like overly fresh. But for a 70.3, if you're trying to like really, really rip it, then you really just kind of don't need to feel really good until, I don't know, you know, like 3 or 4 days before. And I remember he wrote, I think it was the Tuesday before, he does December 1st, he wrote, on Tuesday, he wrote, well, hello there, legs. You know, like 4 days before his race, whereas the weekend before, on Sunday, so 40 hours before that, he did a tempo run, and his comment was, still feeling weary, but still got a 10 hours of sleep last night, so maybe I'm just groggy. Still wasn't feeling good the whole week before that. Felt like a turd out this morning. Hamstring is sore, yada, 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 ease back, just not feeling good. And then a couple days later, obviously did great, and then went out and ran a, you know, freaking 121 half marathon in Daytona. Like, you have to pay attention, but you also have to trust that it's going to work. You can't just take 3 days off in a row, because then your body's like, oh, it's time to shut it down, right? Oh, it's time to rest. Oh, it's time to get stale and repair fully, and then just kind of get lazy with myself. Then you because you want to keep pop for 70.3 days, but you want to keep crisp and fast. You don't want to feel lazy and slow.
Yeah.
Anything else to add to that?
No, but he did say he got 10 hours of sleep in there. And yeah, to me, that's a weird one. Cause like taper, you could do everything perfectly. But if you're nervous and you can't sleep and like you're sleep deprived for 3 days before the race because you're tossing and turning and all of that can, really throw a wrench in things. But I mean, that's kind of my MO sometimes. And I don't think, I'm sure that most people probably struggle the night before a race to sleep. You think that's fair?
I think I do. I would say the majority.
Yeah. And that's always interesting to me because like, you know how it is, man. Any given night when you have a really good night's sleep, it just changes the outlook. It changes the feeling for the day. So you could be perfect on every little, easy shakeout run and, whatever. But if you only sleep 2 hours before an Ironman, man, it's like, it kind of puts you in a little bit of a tank.
Even if it's all mental, right? Going back to like the scale thing is, you see a weight and you're like, I'm going to feel fast today. And then you don't, right? But it's the same thing with sleep. You're like, I got up too early. Like I should have got more sleep, but you're like, wait a minute, but I feel fine, right? I feel really great. Or you're like, I got so much sleep. Your immediate thought is, I'm going to crush it today. Like I got so much sleep, but your body, and you might be getting so much sleep because your body is absolutely exhausted, right? So it's like you're going to have, so it's just generally speaking, I think like just not best to jump to a simple conclusion from one thing. See, we're up on time. Let's blaze to these last ones so we can at least finish it out.
Okay.
Janine, is that cool with you?
Yeah.
If you don't eat the right balance of protein and carbs right after a workout, you are not maximizing the benefits of the workout. Nah. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I mean, to be honest with you, because I think there's no so what is the right balance? Is it, because most of us don't have the freaking time to figure out the exact perfect right balance, right? Here's my thing. Try to find the right balance you can do the most of the time, right? I would tell you if you don't have a lot of time, figure out exactly what you need to eat exactly after every workout, then just find one thing that you pretty much think works for pretty much all workouts. That has a healthy balance. Like if there's one standard smoothie, then just have it, and I think you're going to be, pretty good off, pretty well off. I just think maximizing and things like that are just words I really try to stay away from as best I can, because that's a thing that kind of promotes there is one perfect amount you should have after every specific workout, when I don't know that that's necessarily true.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
It's a good answer.
Yeah, if you have, I like what you said though, because it's sort of afterwards, if you have sort of a thing that works and feels right for the most part, and I think a lot of times the challenge I have is I don't really feel like consuming it sometimes after that, but the old, just make sure you get something in there, right?
Eat some food. Disc or no disc? Asked Paul Bradshaw. Really that important for a sprinter only? Yeah, if you can go over 22, 23 miles an hour. Yeah,
I was gonna say, dude, this is gonna be. I'm gonna spring this on you.
Okay.
But I've rode with a disc the last, I think, 2 Ironman. I don't think I want to do that anymore.
Why? I
don't know. It just didn't feel right. I tried to ride with it leading up to the race, and
they on your list?
Huh?
Are discs on your list?
They're on my list a little bit. I just didn't feel as nimble with it or something like that.
Yeah, but you should feel actually more nimble with it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something for me.
Dude, don't jump to conclusions.
I'm done. They're done.
You're done with discs.
Deep well,
Mike's done with. Just so you guys know, Mike is done with discs, but he's up with Garmin and gadgets. So just
I'm dumping them, man.
He's dumping them. We'll see if he
go back to old Mike.
Good
old Mike when he.
Don't. And I like Mike 2.0. Don't go back. Joyce, I will one day find a saddle that my tushie finds cushy. That's false, Joyce. Sorry. Good luck. Claire, shorter cranks are in general better for triathletes. Oh my God, here we go. Shorter cranks are the newest, greatest trend for all people. And every athlete we send to a bike, they're like, oh, yeah, I think you need to drop down to 125s 125s are the new thing. Like, give me a effing break. Like,
open your hips.
Can we hop off like the shorter cranks are the best for everybody train? Did you get fit? Yep. He wants to take me down from 172s to 147s. Like, really? Does he really now? No, they are not generally better for triathletes. They're better for some people on this planet. Kim, the more stuff I have, the better I will get. That's usually false because you're usually just like grasping for straws. Adam Findell, fact or fiction for reals. My road bike can smoke your tri bike on any course that is not totally flat. So I'm better off saving that 4K. Sorry, homie, that's false. But the most important factor for that whole entire argument is who is the engine?
I was gonna say, how can
it's
you
all
ride
about
that
the
tri-bike
engine because if you're trying to save 4K and you're trying to do you a solid, the answer is still probably not, man. You're going to get smoked by a tri bike. Same engine on each bike, you're going to get smoked.
Unless it's your first time on a tri bike.
Also true.
You know, like if you train on a road bike and you're like, I'm going to get in the race, because that almost happened to me once. Is like I bought my tri bike and it like got it a week before the race, and they're like, just ride it in the race. I'm like, I don't know. And I didn't do it and I'm glad I didn't, because the first time I got on that thing and tried doing all that aero business.
You look like a 4-year-old on a brand new bike without training wheels.
It feels terrible at first.
Yeah, it's not good. Last question from Larkin. A fan is super important for cooling during bike workouts. Yes, 100%. Like, this shouldn't even be a question, right? You should have the biggest, strongest industrial fan your significant other or spouse or apartment will let you use to blow cool air in your face. If you want to perform, you need to be able to regulate your body temperature. You don't get extra points for sweating more because you're not performing well.
That's your opinion.
And it is 100% fact. It is 100% fact. Get a freaking fan.
I never use a fan. I've never used one ever.
Well, then you're not performing to up to your potential.
It's like, hey man, it's like running in a sauna. Who does that?
Yeah, nobody, because there's not a sauna big enough to run in.
No, I don't know. I like to. I feel like it won't.
You just like to do things that are different.
I don't sweat like a lot of people, I don't think.
No, you don't. I sweat like a freaking champ.
Yeah, so I think there's something to that. Like, I don't think I would even sweat if I had a fan on me. Or, I mean, you wouldn't see it.
I mean, that's kind of, you don't need a puddle below you to prove you had a great workout.
I like the puddle, though. Like, if I have a puddle, I'm like,
it makes you feel like, I crushed it today. Yeah.
But I don't get that hot.
Well,
I usually take my shirt off, though.
Maybe you're not working hard enough.
Oh, zinger.
I did see the other day you were running on the treadmill shirtless with sweatpants and no fan. I was like, I'd be dying a slow death right now.
I know.
Like, I ran on it like 2 weeks ago without a fan, and I think I lost like 7 pounds.
I know the sweat. And those sweatpants are kind of thick.
Well, yeah, they're sweatpants.
Yeah, but they're not. You know what I mean? They're a little bit on the old school.
They are old
school.
They are. They're not athleisure sweatpants.
Right,
they are like
right,
legit.
But there's a purpose behind that. I like to keep my. I'm
you
thinking.
Like keep your legs warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're not
but
using
maybe
a fan
I should
and running in
start
place.
doing it upper body because my shoulder. You know what I'm saying?
Oh boy.
No, because I'm trying to prevent and keep my tendons warm, and then I take the shirt off, and then.
Okay, here's what I don't want to have happen. Okay,
what? This thing turn into
because you're getting older and it's already a worry. I don't want to walk into the hub one morning and have you laying there in the treadmill having passed out from dehydration and heat exhaustion in like a garbage bag with like three sweatshirts and some
the
sweatpants.
Old wrestling.
Yes, the old wrestling gear. I don't want to wake up to that.
No,
okay?
You're not. Maybe it would have a wetsuit. Practicing my transition.
Stop it. Speaking of stopping right now, we're stopping this podcast right now. That was fun. We'll do that again. Maybe every quarter. We'll do one of those
or maybe every
frauds
time.
Or for reals every time we want to get saucy and spicy.
It'll be our spin-off cast.
It'll be our spin-off. We appreciate you tuning in. As always, we love you. We appreciate you giving us your time today. Stop by our website if you haven't or need to. Or been, frankly, just putting it off. C26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. We're also still holding our club membership. That's under the coaching tab. Pop down 3. You can click on that, learn more about it. Mike is heading that up. And Mike is also taking on athletes right now. So if you have any questions or comments for him or just general inquiry, you can reach out to him directly. He is at crushingiron@gmail.com. And if you have any questions, comments for me, you can always reach out to me directly. I am at C26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. Off to run camp we go. Let's go.